You're listening to All Kinds of Catholic with me, Teresa Alessandro. My conversations with different Catholics will give you glimpses into some of the ways we're living our faith today. Pope Leo, quoting St. Augustine, reminds us, "Let us live well, and the times will be good. We are the times." I hope you'll feel encouraged and affirmed, and sometimes challenged, as I am in these conversations. Join our podcast community, get news and background information about the conversations, and share your thoughts if you want to. You can get the newsletter and each episode straight to your inbox by going to allkindsofcatholic.substack.com and clicking on subscribe. It's free. That web address is in the episode notes too, and I'd love you to draw closer to our community. Thank you. Listeners, just before we start this episode, I want to let you know that I'll be at the We Believe Festival from the 24th to the 27th of July at St Mary's College in Oscott, Birmingham. It's described as a feast of the true, the good and the beautiful. If you're going to be there, look out for me in the cafe area where I'll be recording some thoughts from people and making a couple of new episodes to go out later in the summer. So it'd be lovely to meet you in person if you're going to be there. There's a link about the We Believe Festival in the episode notes. Well, let's hear from today's guests. Listeners, thanks so much for joining this episode. This is coming from an active parish. We've had a couple of episodes like this, and today we're in Winchester in the parish of St Peter's. We're going to hear from a number of parishioners, a little bit about their own faith journey and about how being part of the parish supports their faith, maybe their contributions to the life of the parish. And also there are some martyrs associated with this parish, so that will be interesting to hear a bit more about for people who are inspired by the martyrs who've gone before us. And this is a special year for the parish of St Peter's, and we'll talk about that too. So, welcome to this episode then, Lesley and Oscar, Patrick and Virginia. Lovely to have you all with us. Maybe we can hear a little bit about your own faith. Sometimes this makes a whole episode, but for today, we've got a good group of people and lots to talk about. So, you're in luck. You can just give a little short something or another about your own faith and, how you've come to be in this parish at this time. Virginia, may we start with you?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Kenya in a strong Catholic family. So faith was, always a part of my life growing up. I'm very grateful for that foundation. But looking back, I think it was more my parents' faith than my own. When I moved into the UK in 2003 as a student, life became busy and faith kind of took a backseat, like something that fitted around convenience. But I still identified strongly as Catholic. And after joining the British Army in 2005 and moving around the country every few years, one of the first things I would do was find a Catholic church nearby. So the one experience that deeply impacted my faith was when my sister went through a very difficult time in her life. Her visa had expired and she had two children, young children, and no recourse to public funds, and she was facing possible deportation. And I remember feeling quite overwhelmed. This was too much for me to carry on my own as her sister. But the local parish Catholic church, I think it was the SVP, and also parishioners and the parish priest, they stepped in with so much love and compassion. And they provided practical support, food and clothes and essential appliances, but also friendship, friendships that we've kept to this day, and prayer and encouragement and dignity. And seeing the church come alive in action like that really moved me deeply. That was a powerful experience of faith in action, seeing love and support for people in a very practical and human way. From that point on, I can say I knew I wanted to be part of that kind of community, living my faith in action. And so in January 2023, I moved to Winchester and I found St. Peter's Parish. And I remember Alpha being advertised, and I thought to myself, why not? Honestly, I wasn't expecting it to have such a big impact on me because I was Catholic and I wasn't new to faith. But it became a turning point in my spiritual journey. And through Alpha, I had a very personal and powerful encounter, and so did others, with God through the Holy Spirit. And something changed deeply in me. That was when my faith became much more alive and personal. prayer and scripture became far more central in my life, and faith grew a lot just through having such a supportive community and learning to be open, to open my heart more fully to God. So it hasn't made life perfect, I must say. I'm no saint. I still face struggles like everyone else, but now I experience God as present in my daily life. It gives me hope and strength and peace and, purpose.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you. Well, you've set the scene really well there for the ways a parish can support someone in difficulty in a practical way, which, you found a parish did for your sister, but also how your faith is supported in the life of the parish and being part of the community and taking up some of the opportunities that may be available. So that's a really great start. Thank you so much. I thought we might hear from you next, Oscar. Oscar, tell us a bit about how have you come to be in the parish here in Winchester?
I was just confirmed this past Easter. I was raised quite an atheist background. I was quite a staunch atheist because my family, they were quite hostile towards the church. But I guess I came to faith during school and going through different mental health problems during like exams and during COVID and things like that. Yeah, that helped bring me more towards faith. How I landed on the Catholic Church was through reading and listening a lot to Pope Francis. I was a big fan of Pope Francis and his work with the poor, refugees. And then last year, I visited Rome. It was a week before his passing at Easter. And I found that to be a very powerful experience. Because I've been a believer for quite a few years, but I've always sort of felt anxious about joining a parish properly rather than just attending Mass here and there. So in September, I decided after going to Rome last year that I would join the Journey in Faith program at the church, and that led me to being confirmed at Easter. And since then, lots of new doors and opportunities have opened for me. Because I'm at university now in Winchester, so that's allowed me to explore my faith a little bit away from my atheist family.
Well, that's fantastic, Oscar. Thank you. And congratulations on being with us in this community of Catholic people all over the world. That's wonderful. And that's, again, given us a little glimpse into life in the parish in Winchester. So, Patrick, perhaps you tell us something about your place in the parish, how you came to be here, a little bit about your faith journey.
Well, it wasn't much of a journey because I was a cradle Catholic, as they call it. From my accent, you can tell I'm Irish. And obviously grew up a bit like Virginia in a Catholic family. Wonderful experience. Had a strong faith all the way through my life. Came to Winchester in 2011 and loved living here in Winchester. But again, a bit like Virginia and a few others, I did an Alpha course in 2017, one of the first Alpha courses we tried in Winchester. Quite skeptical. What more is there to do to be a Catholic? You only go to Mass and do your thing. But obviously I found the Alpha. It wasn't a seismic change. It was much more of a subtle change. And some people have big Alpha changes, and I've seen that happen. And some people have gradual Alpha changes. I'm more of a gradual Alpha changer. But to say that I ended up doing Alpha 5 times afterwards as a team leader, and every time I did an Alpha, I got more and more out of it. I think Alpha made me aware that you can't just have private faith. You have to work on bringing more and more people into the church. Evangelization and all that good stuff was something that I took on board. I loved running the small teams because, we actually got to talk to people who were atheists or who were unsure about their faith or who were very strong on their faith. Everyone got something from the small teams because they were safe, they were confidential, they were pleasant places to be in a rough world sometimes. Like Virginia was talking about, the Alpha small teams are probably the core essence of why Alpha is so successful in our parish and has been extremely successful in the Winchester parish, thanks to Father Mark and the team who are behind Alpha. So from Alpha, I ended up actually being asked to do the centenary committee as a chairperson. And we started that in 2023. A few of us, we actually became the committee and pulled off some fairly big events. And I suppose the most impressive event was the Light of the World. So we had that in February, 3 nights of laser beams coming out of the top of the church. Now, that's quite radical for Winchester. And it was meant to be radical. And anyone who was at it, I hope, really enjoyed it because it was radical in the sense that people could see the light of the world from 15, 20 miles away. The police came in from the motorway to see what was going on because our beams of light were crossing all boundaries. The idea was to put our church on the map as a place of peace and safety for anybody who wanted to pass by, whether there was lights on or not. One of the things at the start of the centenary we heard was that people thought the place was closed, which was the biggest shock I got, to think that our Catholic church, which is always open and a place for all. And by the way, we adopted the title "A Place for All" for our centenary slogan. But on the Night of Lights, we had a place for all. We had hundreds and thousands of people coming through the door to see the lights, but also they had wonderful experiences coming in for the first time into a church and realizing it's quite a nice place to be, and also coming back to the church from many years of being away, crying even in some cases in the aisle, saying how beautiful an experience it was for them. So I think that was the pinnacle. So far, we have lots more centenary activity going ahead. But I think that opening ceremony at the Night of Light and the Light of the World experience, it just really set people apart as a very special community here in Winchester.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Patrick. That's very inspiring. I think there'll be listeners thinking, ooh, these are very good ideas. It's so encouraging to hear, ambition among parishioners to really do something that, like you say, puts the church on the map. That's incredible. Just to say for listeners, the reason I'm speaking to your parish is I feel a bit lame now, but I just had reached 100 episodes of the podcast and somehow I saw on Facebook that you had this centenary, 100 years of your parish that you're celebrating all year. And I thought, oh, that's a nice little link. But wow, you're doing some amazing things in your parish. I was thinking when all of you are speaking about opportunities to deepen your faith in the parish and also to look outwards and think about evangelising around you. And I think too, as a fellow cradle Catholic, I can really see how evangelising, when I was a lot younger, I thought evangelising was something that was for other people to do. I would always feel very uncomfortable. That couldn't be possibly something I would do. And I think the church has really begun to change and begun to embrace the idea of ordinary Catholic people being fantastic evangelisers. Your parish sounds like it's been ahead there in helping people to feel comfortable to do that and to think about that in their own lives. So this is great. But we still have to hear from Lesley. So Lesley, the bar has been set a little bit high now for you. Tell us a little bit about
it has.
How you fit into the parish and your faith journey.
So like Patrick, I was cradle Catholic, but faith has always been so important to me. And on about 3 or 4 times, I have had clear messages from God about my life. And I've made quite dramatic decisions based on what I have heard and what I have thought. And it's always worked out right that he wanted me to do. And God is present in my life throughout the day. And like Virginia was saying, it's just, I just can't imagine living my life without God. And it's just walks by me the whole of the day. Any problem I have, I just pass it over. Doesn't always have a solution that I want, but majority of times it does. So I was at St. Peter's quite a few years ago, then I moved. And then in COVID, I came back to St. Peter's through the online platform. And then I made a decision, despite living about 25 minutes away, I would go back to St. Peter's. And it felt like coming home. I just love the church. I love the parish. I get so much out of it spiritually. I've been stretched in my faith. I've been supported in my faith. I've met like-minded friends and we talk about faith and it's a normality now, whereas years ago probably wasn't. It was just within me. As I mentioned earlier, I do run a sanctuary hub in Winchester, and what's been so good about St. Peter's is just let me go. It just said, yeah, you can do it. Again, that was another message I received very clearly. I was looking for something to do. I was taking early retirement. I was a bit worried about my life, what I would do. We were singing a hymn at church and the words literally went across my forehead. The actual letters appeared, work with people seeking sanctuary. So I knew nothing about it. Then I started volunteering for a charity and then I came to St. Peter's and I was asked to do a response to the Ukrainian crisis and I set up the hub. And Father Mark has been just so supportive. I just get his support, his leadership all the way through. It's my life now. I spend 7 days a week working with people seeking sanctuary. And I always pray very much beforehand. I read the Gospels, I pray, because without God inside me, I can't do my work properly. And just St. Peter's has just given me that platform. It's just absolutely amazing. The active congregation in all different levels. I mean, there's so many outreach programs. Mine is just one. There's many, many more. We really do evangelise.
Thank you, Lesley. There's so much there. I also have experience of feeling called to do something that I didn't know anything about, starting the podcast and needing to learn to do it and finding my way, but feel that I'm being supported by the Lord at every turn and that I can discern a way forward. And I think there may be people listening who are wondering about taking that step that they're feeling they're being called to. And I hope that gives them some encouragement to go ahead, because that's a very powerful witness. Thank you.
If people are facing those decisions, it's about prayer. And then feeling that you're comforted and feeling that you're in somebody's arms. That's how I felt.
Wonderful. Okay, now you did mention, Lesley, that I think we've had quite a flavour of some of the things going on at St. Peter's just from hearing the faith stories of each of you. I wonder if there's some things we've not talked about just to give us a fuller flavour of what's happening at this parish.
Well, Virginia mentioned SVP at a previous parish. I think our SVP at St. Peter's is very strong. And they do all the work that Virginia mentioned. And they've been, again, very supportive to me in my sanctuary work.
You're right about SVP, but we've also got something called street pastors. And I'm not sure if everybody else have got street pastors, but street pastors are non-denominational, as in they're all Christian denominations as far as I know. But it's a great way of getting churches together. They use the St. Peter's Hub as a base. And what they do is they go out on weeknights, weekend nights especially, and they look after people, especially young people who are a bit under the weather or a little bit having a bad time. And they bring out with them flip-flops and lollipops. Ladies who have the high heels and can't get home safely in the high heels, they give them flip-flops. I think they also give them the lollipops to give them a sugar rush to help get to wherever they're trying to go. But they also give them advice, support, as Virginia said. Sometimes people need someone to listen to them. The street pastors have been a massive success. It's growing, with more volunteers all the time. And it's very great that St. Peter's in the heart of Winchester is used as the hub for the street pastors. And it's just a wonderful feeling to know we're where we're needed at the right time.
And prison work as well. That's another one that we're very strong on as well, working with Winchester Prison and chaplain.
Okay, because of course Winchester has a prison very close by. So people from the parish are involved in supporting people in prison?
And also in the courts as well. They go to the courts and support the courts.
I think it's a really positive sign when a parish is able to offer space for projects that are bringing together the wider community, like the street pastors, as you say, using that as a hub. It's another kind of evangelising, isn't it? Or at least witnessing to our faith and working together with people who share our faith, even if we're in different denominations. That's always very positive. So I'm glad to hear about that. I'm wondering if there's something about supporting people's prayer lives.
Lots of people mention Alpha. So after Alpha, there's another program called Acorns. And the Acorns are small groups, a bit like house groups, but they're about 8 to 10 people. Each group has got 2 leaders, and those leaders meet with Father Mark. So it's very supported. And each Acorn group meets once every fortnight and then once every week in Lent. And there's also retreats. We've got a retreat this weekend. We're going off to Oxford. There's all that. And then there's the Alpha Leadership course in London, which Virginia, you went to as well, didn't you?
Yeah. What we have in St. Peter's is very special is the small groups. I got the opportunity to facilitate one of these groups. And we've got journey, faith, prayer groups, outreach events as we've had, parish activities. We are really supported. I think we're very blessed.
And then the regular emails from Father Mark offering us prayers and thoughts and linking to the scripture.
So that sounds like a very hardworking parish priest.
On the prayer piece, I wanted to mention as well, we use online prayer groups as well, prayer warriors. And this is something that's wonderful. Again, a help for people who need help. The power of prayer has been amazing. What we've seen, people send requirements for prayer. So people who've had accidents, people who are going in for hospital tests, people who are going through exams, things that need praying for, big and small, like they hope they get a job interview. It's not a small thing for the person going for the job, of course. But every one of us pray for these people, and it's amazing the power of prayer because we hear the feedback. We hear that the operation went well, or we hear afterwards that the person got the job or whatever is happening in their life. Not all prayers are answered the way we expect them to be answered, but some are exactly the way they were asked. So people get what exactly they asked for. And I think it makes us understand the power of prayer much more often. I know there's great outreach activity and practical activity, but there's also spiritual activity that can be even more powerful than giving out lollipops and flip-flops, is saying the right prayer at the right time for the person who needs it.
Thank you, Patrick. That's wonderful to hear about.
I saw Oscar on the altar the night he got confirmed, so congratulations.
Thank you.
It's just a massive ceremony, isn't it?
It was an incredible night, and to have the whole community there supporting us was really nice.
Oscar, do you feel you made friendships while you were making this journey?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've made so many friends, my age, older, younger people. I've got a few friends that were on the same journey and faith course as me that go to the university as well. So we're sort of working at the moment to create a Catholic society at the university because we were surprised it wasn't already one. And so Father Mark and Father Pedro, they're sort of helping us with that. There's loads and loads of friends I've made, some really good, strong, long-lasting ones as well.
That night, 10 people were confirmed, Oscar. And of that, I think probably 8 were under 30. For me, as an older member of the parish, it's wonderful to see that demographic is choosing to come on board. Just wonderful news. So it encourages us to see you guys up on the altar. So well done.
It is really nice to see younger people sort of getting more involved. And me and a couple of other younger people try to come to weekday masses as well. And it's nice to see because Kate, who helps to run the weekday masses, she is sort of trying to get us a bit more involved. Now that we've had so much support from the parish, a lot of us are hoping that we can give back as well.
That's lovely, Oscar. And that's one of the things sometimes people talk about. I had this conversation with a guest recently about the kind of struggle after someone has been through a programme being received into the church. Sometimes it's hard to help them stay connected in the parish. And that's why I was asking if you'd made some friendships. And it sounds like, again, your parish is all over this and is very good at helping people be connected and find new roles and responsibilities and ministries that you can be involved in. That's really great. If we may come back to you, Patrick, you introduced some of the centenary activities with the
Light of the World.
Light of the World. What else is going on? Because it's a year-long celebration, isn't it? Tell us what else is happening in the parish to inspire us.
I hope I can remember everything. We had a centenary pageant, which took us through the history of Winchester Catholicism. And the other great thing was we had a whole bunch of other nationalities. Virginia, I think you did a wonderful piece on stage. And so we had all the different groups around Winchester, Ukrainians, Nigerians, Africans. Everyone did a piece on stage in the church. So we had a wonderful centenary concert. And then we had a classical concert by an ex-parish priest who came back and brought back his whole ensemble to do a very nice evening of music. What's coming up is obviously the centenary party is coming up. If you know about Winchester, you know that St. Swithin is buried in Winchester Cathedral. And if you know anything about weather, you know St. Swithin's Day is meant to be a very important day in the calendar to make sure it stays dry on St. Swithin's Day. But for us, we want St. Swithin's Day to be dry because we're having our massive ecumenical service and parish party around then. And then afterwards, in October, a month of reflection on martyrdom and outreach. And that's when we'll be celebrating the Winchester Martyrs, which our church is named after. And then finally, before Christmas, we're having a massive carol concert outside the church with the primary school children doing a nativity play. And believe it or not, we hadn't one of those in Winchester for as long as I've been around here. So there are some of the things I can remember off the top of my head. There's an awful lot more, which we have to keep in the parish newsletter.
That's lovely. What a worthy way to celebrate 100 years of a parish and a parish that's still going strong.
I would like to, coming from an African background in a predominantly white community, I think for us, we've been very blessed to be able to have this opportunity for this centenary year to take part as the African community. So this centenary year has been especially beautiful because it has brought together different generations and communities within the parish. And it's been wonderful, celebrating not just obviously the building, but also the life and the diversity and the faith of the people who make up the parish community. As part of the growing African community within St. Peter's, it's meant a lot for us to be involved in the celebration and share our culture too. So my hope is that we continue to grow in confidence and participate, because I believe diversity really enriches parish life and strengthens, gives the sense of being one family in Christ.
We have lots and lots of children, and they are all so happy. After Mass, you see they all play outside, just outside the parish centre. And it's just wonderful to see. It's so lively and so buzzy. So it's all ages.
Sounds like the parish works hard to be a living community of real people representing the universal church, all ages, all nationalities, all heritages, all our experiences being celebrated. That sounds absolutely wonderful. Just to make a little link back now, this episode is following on from one where I did a little walk through Catholic history in London. I know there's a long history in Winchester of Catholicism too, going back to earlier times. So, Patrick, you've bravely volunteered, not as an expert, but to give us a little bit of understanding of the Winchester Martyrs, whose witness is marked in this parish. So tell us what you can about it, and then there'll be a link in the episode notes, everyone, for the more detailed information for those who really want to get into it.
Well, I suppose really I can only just give my reflections on the Winchester Martyrs, who were martyred basically back when we were killing each other over small differences. And we had a wonderful lecture during the centenary by Professor Diarmaid McCulloch, the Oxford University lecturer. And he talked to us about how people ended up getting killed for the wrong beliefs. The semantics of what people fought and died for back in those days is something we need to remember. And that's why I think the martyrdom of these people who believed in the Catholic faith, and that's the one true faith as far as we're concerned as Catholics. But the three Winchester martyrs martyred in Winchester, they all went to their deaths in a wonderful, peaceful way. Ralph Milner, a very liked martyr, condemned to death for quite some time, but everyone liked him so much, I think they didn't actually get around to executing him until very late in the sentence. And it was a bit of a shock that they actually did in the end. But he said to his son on the gallows, look, I hope you don't come up to an end any worse than mine. So he wasn't exactly saying, this is terrible. He was basically embracing martyrdom and realizing that he was going to a better place. And I think the way they all approached death was also a very encouraging way for us all to see martyrdom or death in any way as being something that we don't have to fear too much, and in some cases, welcome for the right reasons. We have a lovely stained glass window section in St. Peter's Church, and obviously in the centenary year, we'd welcome anyone coming to Winchester to pop into St. Peter's and take a look on the left-hand side, and you'll see the Winchester Martyrs in a lovely stained glass window. We also have a very small book which explains how they came about being martyrs. And the fact that they basically hid priests in their houses, celebrating Mass was a major crime. But even in the fear of persecution, people still went out and celebrated Mass. And it makes us realize today how lucky we are in our part of the world. And some parts of the world, you still would get martyred for celebrating Mass. So I think we are so lucky that heritage is ingrained in us in Winchester. We also have the first Catholic church. The Milner Hall was the first church that was actually consecrated in England after the Reformation. So we actually have the Milner Hall on site as well, beside St. Peter's, as the first church that was used as a proper Catholic church. When the rough times were finished and we were actually starting to become more tolerant with each other, I think what Virginia is pointing out there is we need to be more tolerant with each other every single day.
That's very good, Patrick. Thank you. Now, Oscar, there's quite a lot of guests who have become Catholics from a background of no particular faith or, as you said, atheism. Actually, something about the history of the church has been important for them, and the long history of the Catholic Church and the long kind of tradition of staying true to this faith has been something that has inspired them. I'm just wondering if that's something that is part of your story.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been a great lover of history. I read a lot of history books, and I think there's certainly no shortage of history within the church. I think another thing that brought me to the faith was reading all this rich history, especially in England as well. Obviously, after the Reformation, you had a lot of persecution. But before that, I was really inspired English saints like St. Thomas Becket, St. Thomas More as well. Yeah, martyrs themselves. Yeah, definitely. The history is something that is very core to our belief as well. I think it's something that is, really important.
Thank you.
I've had friends from other parishes across the country visit me here and have come to Mass here, and they've all said that this is a really special parish. They said that the community here is so alive and thriving, and that's certainly thanks to our parish priest, Father Mark, and Father Pedro, who joined us this year. I think they really put a lot of effort into feeding this community and keeping it alive and thriving.
Thank you, Oscar. That is fantastic. Just talking to you all today has really inspired me. This is an amazing parish that's full of life and activity and service and witness to our faith. It's wonderful to hear what can be the life of a parish and how that is something you're all contributing to as well as all being nourished by. I think that's come across very clearly. So this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for your encouragement for people listening and affirmation. And maybe some of what you've said is challenging too for people who are struggling to make a decision to contribute more to their parish. This is what can happen if everybody plays their part in the life of their parish. So thank you so much for your time, everybody, and for sharing your experiences.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me on All Kinds of Catholic this time. I hope today's conversation has resonated with you. A new episode is released each Wednesday, And you can follow All Kinds of Catholic on the usual podcast platforms. Rate and review to help others find it. You can also follow us on social media at Kinds of Catholic. And remember, if you connect with us on Substack, you can comment on episodes and share your thoughts and be part of the dialogue there. Until the next time.